fucking now frozen in time like that.
Forever. At least nobody knows who you are.
That's true.
Yeah, those are the guys.
I don't know those people. Yeah, that's on the way down.
Yeah. Fucked up way to go.
Watch this.
Instantaneously.
Somebody's like, that's Bob and Tom.
When I was a kid, Mount St. Helens blew up. What year was that, Jamie? Mount St. Helens was in the Pacific Northwest, and it was a big deal because it was an actual real volcano that killed people in the United States. And we were like, whoa. Like, what? I thought volcanoes were like in other countries. 1980. So I was not even in high school. Yeah. That was a crazy one. How many people died from Mount St. Helens? Yeah, they knew it was an active volcano, but
And
they
they
didn't
still
think.
went.
Wow, it's like people live on the side of active volcanoes. Like in Hawaii, there's a bunch of people that live on the side of an active
When I was in
volcano.
Hawaii, I think there was one of the volcanoes did go off.
Yeah, it happened when I was there too. Like the Big Island. The Big Island is very active. There's a crazy film
Yeah,
of
I've just been. I'm
lava
good.
overcoming this Mustang. Have you ever seen it?
No.
There's a Mustang parked in front of the street, and the lava is coming from this eruption, and it just slowly consumes the street and eats this car right in front of this dude's house. Like these people have been living there, chilling their whole life,
Does, like,
coming
your
home from
insurance-
school. Hi, Mom, I'm home.
Does your insurance cover that?
Probably not. They try to cover as little as possible.
Oh, I
if you live on
know.
the side of an active volcano,
Okay, I'm gonna get volcano insurance.
yeah, that's up to you, player.
But I
Yeah.
want to have my expensive car.
Alexa, turn my TV
I had a
off.
friend who he had some crazy situation. I think he had like flood insurance, but he didn't have damage from water from a hurricane insurance. So like your roof can get destroyed from a hurricane, and you don't have insurance for that, but you have insurance if like your pipes break. Like you got fucked in some sort of a weird loophole.
What's weird too with stuff like that, anytime it's like an adjuster, if you get the right adjuster, they can do whatever you want.
Oh,
But you
cool.
have to get an adjuster who's going to do it. Like I used to call and do like appeals for health insurance stuff. And if you kind of sweet talk someone, they might just put it through for you. You have to just keep calling back until you get an adjuster that's going to give you what you want.
Or you have to charm them in person.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what, because they're just regular people.
Right. And they could decide.
Absolutely. They hold so much power sometimes.
That's a crazy power to have.
right.
Tell
Where
a
you're like,
person you can get your house fixed.
right. Or like your car's totaled and we're going to pay for it or we're not.
Yeah, or you're going to have a shaky ass car for the rest of your life as you take it on the highway. You ever had a car that's fixed that really probably shouldn't have been fixed?
I mean, my first car I had was like a Ford Tempo. And I remember the steering wheel like came off in my lap as I was driving it. And I was just like picked it up and just kept driving.
You put it back on?
Oh, I should not have been driving that car.
Oh my God. When you're a kid and you buy shit boxes, like the chances of those things just completely falling
What's
apart
good,
are
Xander?
so high.
Thank you for coming.
My dad also would just like want to paint a car. So he would just like start painting a car and prime it, like half of it, and then he would give up. So we'd have like a 2-colored car as a child. It's like so embarrassing.
Yeah, if you have a poor car.
How was work? I just woke up.
And then my mom got into a car accident and got a car with that money.
Oh.
The Ford Tempo was like $5,000. It had like bright red leather inside.
Bright red leather.
I remember, yeah, I was driving with that car. Me and my friends on the highway, and I'm like, oh, steering wheel just came down, but it's still connected. So I just pick it up and like make the turn.
Oh, so like the thing that adjusts the steering wheel dropped off?
I don't know. It just like fell in my lap when I was driving, and then I just picked it up and like still drove it.
Jesus Christ. There's a lot of those cars out there. That's why we need inspections, Adrian. Very important.
My dad though knew a guy who would just keep passing that car. Yeah,
Those guys are rough.
yeah. But that's what I'm saying. It's like the right. It's a person that's like not an adjuster, but like if you know them, they'll do it for you.
Yeah, my friend was telling me about that for muscle cars in Los Angeles. That there's a place you can go in like the hood, and this guy will completely pass like any car. I was like, that sounds like an FBI sting.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so many things like that.
Well, especially in New York.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, New York is all about knowing guys.
All about knowing a guy. It's all about like what you can get away with.
Yeah.
New York City is disgusting. And I've lived there my whole life. I hate it, but I can't imagine like living in it permanently for the rest of my life.
What do you think is going to be the hardest adjustment about moving here?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I can't live here during the summer. I can't deal with like flying roaches, whatever those things are. I just can't. I'm out.
Jamie, do you experience a lot of flying roaches?
I just see them out. Like it was like 105 degrees here when I came last June with Ari, and it was just like we were in his house. He got a really nice Airbnb.
He probably brought them with him.
There were a lot of crickets this year, but I don't.
I mean, I was in the room, in the bathroom, and there was one like this big.
A roach.
Whatever,
Yeah.
maybe they're cicadas, whatever they're called.
Oh, yeah. Cicadas are very different than roaches.
They look like roaches.
People eat them.
Sure, people eat people. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make it cool or right, but like, you can eat whatever you want.
No, but I mean, it's like a delicacy. Like, people enjoy it.
Sure. That's
No,
fine.
like, I know a guy who does it.
God bless. That's not for me.
My friend Ryan Callahan. He had a recipe of how to cook cicadas.
Don't
did it
they
on his
look like
podcast.
big roaches, though?
They're like a bug.
Anyway, I go to
Yeah.
get Ari to kill it, and he's like, oh, it just flew. And I'm like, what? That was like a new fear unlocked. It flew?
It probably was a cicada. Probably wasn't a
Maybe.
roach.
It might not have been a roach, but like,
That's what a cicada looks like.
I can't.
Fucking cool. They're fucking cool. See if you find cicada recipes. See if you can find Ryan Callahan's cicada recipe. My friend Ryan, he would cook them with like teriyaki sauce and bake them. Yeah, apparently, look, I've gone to Mexico before, and at certain resorts in Mexico, they'll serve you like fried crickets.
Sure.
Have you seen that?
I've heard about it.
Yeah. Fried crickets or grasshoppers, I forget which one. But they're good. They taste good.
They're probably crunchy.
Yeah, crunchy, and it was kind of salty. It's pretty good. And it's actually not bad for you, like legitimate.
It's protein, right?
Yeah, it's the same kind of animal protein that you get from a lot of different things. But protein from cicadas is apparently particularly good. Because they're big, there's a lot of protein in those little fuckers.
I mean, I just remember being out like outside in like a bar here, and they were just
That's all it is for you is the bugs?
the heat's not great.
You can handle the heat?
I can handle the heat over those bugs.
Just
The
stay away
bugs.
from the bugs. I don't run
You
into
can't.
them.
They fly.
Adrian, I'm telling you, you're hanging out in the wrong spots. I'll show you where
Sure,
to go
maybe
where
I'm in
the
the
bugs
poor places, but
bugs
like
don't
the
know.
bugs are just I can't deal with the flying
Just
over
go where
them.
the bugs are. It's not that big of a deal. The mosquitoes are a pain in the ass.
What the fuck?
I don't care about that. I mean, yeah, it's not great, but like those big things.
Like Ladybird Lake, go around there, you know, there's a lot of mosquitoes. They're all over the fucking place. But that's also what the bats keep in check. Have you seen the bat emergence before?
No,
Oh, it's fucking cool as shit.
bats are actually pretty cute.
Well, there's the bridge, right? There's
Yes,
the South
I've heard
Congress
about that.
Bridge. And if you go by the South Congress Bridge, there's people every night that are waiting for the bats to leave. Because millions of bats leave. So as billions of critters have emerged for 7 years. So is this Ryan? Okay, so you show
Damn.
it. So you peel off the skin of these little fuckers.
What is this guy doing?
That's not Ryan Callahan. I don't know who that guy is. Oh, okay. But so this guy's just showing how you cook cicadas. So he's basically taking away the outside
throw
area,
up.
and he made a cicada taco for this kid and this lady, and they're eating it with a. She said she's freaking out.
The fuck?
She said it's not bad. What was I just talking about before that, though? We were moving on to something else.
Oh, what I missed about being here as opposed to New York.
Yeah, we talked about the bats. That's
Oh.
The bats eating the
Yeah,
mosquitoes.
show the bats emerging from the South Congress Bridge. It's really crazy. I've only done it once where I went out
I
there
would
and
like to
watched
see
it
it.
happen. It's like a million nuts. It's like the sky fills with bats, and they kill all the fucking mosquitoes. They're death.
Why are they not eating this?
Look at them. Look at
That's
that.
pretty cool though.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's pretty badass. I've seen it live like that, and if you go under that bridge, you hear them. You hear it.
25 more.
Little flying
It's a good
rats.
bat
What
noise,
else
Joe.
do they eat? They can't eat just mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes. And serial killers. They keep the mosquitoes in check. They probably eat a bunch of bugs. I'm sure they don't
Bang.
only count on mosquitoes, but they're
24.
a significant factor in keeping the mosquito population down.
What the fuck are you doing there?
That's right.
He spawned there? Wow.
I think it's true. I think it's true. I think that's one of the main things. That
My
they
friend
help with.
he lives in, I guess, the country, and he's like trying to put up those places where bats will come to eat the mosquitoes. Like, I guess you put up those little like, bat houses or whatever with pheromones in them, I guess. And he's
Wow.
like, he can't get them to come there because he has a lot of mosquitoes because he lives by a lake.
I bet bats, it's hard to get them to move into new areas, you know? Because I bet wherever bats live, if they live by a lake, there's probably plenty of bugs. Like, why would they take a risk to go somewhere where they're not sure if resources exist?
I mean, they could just fly.
Right, but they live under this bridge, and they've been on this bridge forever.
Well, yeah, I don't think he's gonna get these bats.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, when bats find a spot that works, they're not migratory.
Right, they're just gonna stay
Yeah,
there.
they're just gonna stay there. So to get them to go to a new spot, he's probably gonna have to bring bats. We actually had a bat expert on the podcast.
Do you know what I need? I need an expert for pantry moths.
We'll try to find one.
I mean, I have pantry moths for the last 3 months, and I can't get rid of them.
Where they go? They migrate seasonally, flying south for the winter and then returning north in the spring. Interesting.
Yeah, that's how I heard about it because there's a bunch more in Houston.
Right, so they probably, because Houston doesn't get as cold probably, but they probably have like an established range is what my point is. It's like bringing them to a new range, like to your friend's place, is going to
Right.
be difficult because there's not a history of them being there. But I wonder if, what was that dude's name? What does it say? It says they eat between 10,000 and 30,000 pounds of insects, including mosquitoes, and every night on their nightly flights. And
What the
harmful
fuck is
agricultural
this?
pests.
They gotta be
So
eating
Austin's
lots of
bats,
flowers.
they're fucking huge. They really, they come in handy. But fuck, what was I asking about other than that? Yes, that's his name, Merlin Tuttle. So he's a bat expert, and he lives in Austin as well. Fascinating dude. He's been studying bats his whole life. He's a scientist.
Is there still new stuff to find out about bats?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, bats carry a lot of weird diseases. It's one thing, you know. Like,
Makes
and
sense, 'cause
there's
they're eating
crossover
mosquitoes.
diseases. The coronavirus is essentially the bat disease that they took and fucked with and made it vulnerable for humans. So they've done a lot of work with like bats and diseases. One of the craziest stories, though, there's these two doctors, or two scientists, and they were in Africa, and they decided to set up photography to film these bats as they were flying out of the cave, because there's a certain cave in Africa that has like some fucking insane number of bats. It's just filled with them. And when these bats flew out, they shit. So these guys are on the ground in front of the bat cave filming,
covered
and
in
they
shit?
didn't take into account they're going to be covered in bat shit. Just millions and millions of bats shitting in their face. And they died. They died of
From
like
the
some
shit?
crazy hemorrhagic virus that
Jesus.
just raged through their system. If you imagine you are a human being and you're essentially intravenously taking in bat shit into your system. It's going in your eyeballs.
What a
it's going in your
crazy
mouth.
turn of events.
It's going through the blood-brain barrier. The bat shit's getting into your blood and it's circulating through your whole body. And you just develop a horrible hemorrhagic
So you
virus.
can't play in that shit like you can play in cow shit.
I think bats eat a lot of like living organisms, unlike cows. You know, bat poop has turned these African cave crocodiles.
I mean,
orange.
that orange crocodile
That's
looks
pretty
cool.
dope. That's a
Yeah.
pretty
I'd like
dope-looking
I'd like a pair of
crocodile.
boots. for
Yeah,
that guy.
no shit, right? Like natural.
Nice.
Natural orange crocodile from bat poop. You know, the bat guano is a very potent fertilizer, right? Because bat guano has like, I think it has high levels of nitrogen. I think that comes from them eating all the insects. So that like, there used to be wars over bat shit. And that's where the term bat shit crazy comes from. Yeah,
did not know that.
guano was like a very expensive commodity because people needed it to grow crops. So if you could
That's
get,
crazy.
yeah, bat guano is apparently very potent fertilizer.
Fucking weirdo.
4,300-year-old poop core in a giant cave that they've been studying.
What?
5,000 different species of bats have been shitting on for
Jesus Christ. Oh my
meters tall.
God. Deposited into sequential layers by generations of bats for over 4,300 years, and it's 2 meters tall. That is so
Dude,
crazy.
what?
Largely undisturbed and holds information about changes in climate and how the bat's food sources shifted over the millennia. Wow.
Imagine going to Jamaica for spring break and that's where you go.
That is so crazy. That's so nuts. You know what I'm really fascinated with is things that existed like only in myth, but that every culture has, like dragons. Like I had this guy Forrest Gallant. He's a wildlife biologist, and he thinks that there's a real possibility that dragons were an actual thing, and that
Well, when they have lived, like when dinosaurs were around.
no, they lived alongside humans. That's why there's all these records and all these different cultures. And, you know, there's Chinese culture has dragons, Japanese culture has dragons, ancient Europeans have dragons. Like, dragon is not a fire breathing. That seems to be bullshit. But maybe even.
What kind of, like, what would their purpose be?
Well, they're probably like a crocodile that flies. There was probably like more than one kind of really dangerous reptile that they called dragons, like Komodo dragons.
Right, Komodo dragon.
Giant lizard, they call it a dragon, right? Crocodiles, dragons. The question is whether or not one of them actually flew. Because we know that pterodactyls were a real thing. If
I mean, they
pterodactyls,
probably were real then.
nah, I think it's probably something like that. You know, some kind of like enormous bird type creature.
I only want a dragon if it's going to like just have fire come out of its mouth.
All the time. Yeah.
That's the only kind of dragon.
Stick it on your enemies.
Yes.
Shut the fuck up. You know?
Send it to your
Like
house.
when you're in Game of Thrones and that lady's standing there, and then you see the dragon's head slowly
I never
emerge
watched Game
behind
of
her.
Thrones. I know.
How dare you?
I know.
It's so good.
I keep trying to get into
That's
it,
so
but
sick, though.
new
I
ones,
want a pet
The new
dragon.
one's
mean
2
the
seasons
old
in.
one.
The old one's so
Thanks, Lynn.
good. Makes you want a dragon.
Got fucking 20 headshots right
Is her
there.
name Daenerys? Who had the dragons? Is that her name?
Half my kills were
You didn't watch it
headshots.
either? Could you not get into it?
She's too busy playing video games and golf.
Bring me your puppy.
Oh, what are you into reality?
Bring me your puppy right now. Bring me Carl.
Look at Jamie's like, I don't like fantasy.
Not that kind.
Yeah, I
What
don't
kind
really
of
like
fantasy
fantasy
do
like
you
that
like?
either.
I don't know, like sci-fi stuff a little more.
Have you seen Three Body Problem?
No, it was on my list to watch it and started.
It's
Is it good?
really good. Really, by the guys who made Games of Thrones, or the gals, or non-binary folks, whatever the fuck it is.
Whoever made it.
Whoever made Game of Thrones. That's a thing that you repeat without looking any further. I don't know what producers or whatever, but the point is, like, it is a really, really good show. Like, really fun. And science fiction. And even my wife was not even into science fiction. She loves it.
I gotta check it out. I
Yeah,
really want.
it's good.
I really want Carl.
Carl.
He
He's
just.
so cute.
Yeah, he's got to rest up for Marshall. In about 15, 20 minutes, he's going to meet Marshall again. It's gonna-
Marshall is like
chaos
Marshall
once
is just
again.
happy right now.
Oh, yeah. He's happy when Carl's nowhere near him.
He's like, Carl, please, I can't.
Especially if, like, he doesn't have a toy where they can play tug of war.
Right.
If they can play tug of war, it's cool. But Carl is just a
Oh yeah. As soon as
psycho.
I came in, he was just like biting my sneaker.
Yeah, he just wants to bite. He,
He
wants
just
to
wants.
play.
He's still so young though.
Yeah, he's a little baby. But he's also a crazy dog. Like
He's
like
nuts.
a little torpedo. He
Yeah.
launches himself through the air at Marshall.
Yeah. He's like, if he was a person, he'd be a dictator. He's like nuts.
He'd be a gladiator. He'd be
He's-
one of those dudes
he's, like,
fighting
just
in Rome.
jacked.
Yeah, he'd be one of them dudes fighting.
So they've officially named the sexiest
He
metal.
wouldn't be the guy that killed himself with the shit sponge.
No, no
That guy
way.
was a
He'd be
pussy.
killing people with the shit sponge,
Yeah.
just plunging it right in their throat.
But you imagine if, like, today was the lion fight, you're like, I don't want to do this. I'd rather choke to death on a shit stick.
I don't think I'd rather just, yeah, I think you're like, I'm just gonna off myself with this.
Bro's got the
I mean,
two
how bad
camera.
your
I guess
life
you do
has to
it.
suck to take this fucking sponge covered in other people's shit and just bypass your gag instincts and stuff it down your hole until you die.
You don't die right away either. You're
You
just,
definitely don't die right
no.
away.
You're just like ingesting those fumes.
Yeah, you're
You brought it
throwing up in the
You
middle
brought this back up.
of killing
The shit
yourself
stick.
by stuffing it
I
in
think
your
someone
neck.
thought that would kill them and they just tried smelling it until they died and it didn't work.
Nah, they're probably used to that kind of smell.
It's like smelling salts. I bet that shit wakes you right up.
You want some?
No. I used to work at a place
Ready?
that. I'll do it, but I'm not gonna do it that close.
Oh!
That's what people do with the shit stick. That
Oh
was their
my
face.
god! That was the biggest one I ever got. Ever. Oh my god. I thought it had lost a little bit of potency from the other day. Yo!
Like a delayed reaction. Yeah, a little
Yo,
Oh my God.
that one hit me harder than
I
anyone
thought
I've
it
ever
wasn't
been
even
hit.
that close to me. It's like chlorine, but the most chlorine. So I worked at a place that did
Ammonia.
abortions. It was like an OBGYN, and they used to have that stuff to like wake people up.
Oh, fun.
Ugh, God, that is so bad.
It's addictive
we
though. You
just-
want to try it again?
No, I
you?
don't.
You don't? You sure?
I'm not a
I'll
gambler.
give you a couple minutes.
I'm not a gambler.
Doesn't matter.
I'll do it from further away.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Let's see how close I can get. Let's see how close I can get.
It's one of those things where everybody does it and they're like, what the fuck?
That
And they're
was
like,
so
let me do it
bad.
again. Let me try it again. Let me try it again. Everybody wants to try it again.
That's brutal.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough.
What do they use that for besides?
Weightlifters.
Oh, if they get knocked out.
No. They take it right
Oh.
before they power lift.
Why?
Apparently, I don't know the actual science. Maybe Jamie can look it up. The idea, I think, that is it shocks your system. It like just jolts everything alive, and then you're like, fucking, rah! And then you can lift more weights. Allegedly. It must.
That's crazy because I didn't even have it that close to my face.
They used to use it with boxers when they made it illegal. They would put it under a boxer's nose
To
if
wake
they
them
were
up,
losing,
right?
To wake them up. Yeah. If they get like rocked and hurt, they would snap them back. I don't even know if it works. I
Lots
mean,
of
What is that?
NFL
What
players,
is it
hockey
though?
is it legal for them?
Yeah, well, they're using smaller versions, but yeah,
Why can't boxers use it then?
I don't know that they can't.
I don't think they can. I think smelling salts are illegal in between rounds. I think it actually was an issue that somebody brought up because I think someone was asking why someone, it was one of the fight men in the UFC, one of the cut men in the UFC, was holding someone's nose open after they got rocked, like with his finger, but it was just to create more airway.
Because they can mask more serious injuries and cause further harm.
Right.
That's what stim boxing is why.
Yeah, that makes sense. So like if you get rocked and then they give you smelling salts, you might think you're okay, but really you're still fucked up.
Right.
The worst injury from them is what this is backing up. When I was looking into it, is whiplash. It's not like burning your nose.
That's hilarious.
Oh, is it from just going
It's
like
from the
that?
yeah, because you can't not react that way.
That's hilarious.
People that are more hurt get fucked up more.
Do some neck exercises, homie. You get whiplash from that. That's
You get into a
ridiculous.
car
Locating
accident
an
and you
injured
wanna
spine.
like to get more money, so you just
Yeah.
do that for
Take
whiplash.
a couple blasts of that.
What is
before the
that
cops
stuff?
get
Like
there.
what? It just smells like ammonia kind of.
I think it is ammonia. Yeah, it's just ammonia, and like crystal.
Oh, no.
form. But this company is the product is called Ah. This is the strongest one we've ever
I
tried.
mean, I've smelled it before too, but like that is very strong.
It's
It
the
was like
strongest.
here, and I smelled it.
Yeah, this smelled so bad that it smelled inside the sealed container. So it had a sealed plastic container on the outside.
could
I had to
smell it.
open that. I could smell it through the container before it was even open. And then once I unsealed it and opened the bag, while this was sealed and with like a top to the lid, like so there's the top that's like sealed over the bottle and then the lid on top of the top.
And you still smelled it. Through
Still
that.
smelled it through that. With like the plastic seal, you gotta pull the seal back and everything. Once we opened it up, it's insane. Whatever the fuck is in it, whatever it does to your
How did
system.
they like get it in crystal form?
Oh, brother.
Okay, you do first. Why would you go that close? That's pretty close.
Get in there, girl. Big breath, big breath, big breath, big breath.
Oh,
No, that was
I
nothing.
smelled enough.
That was nothing.
I don't care. I'm not gonna breathe in it. I'm gonna
All
lie.
right.
I'm gonna pretend I'm doing it.
You did it. Get the
That
full
first time,
experience of
that first time is like brutal.
Yeah. Doesn't it wake you up though?
It does,
Yeah.
for
So
sure.
if somebody had rocked you, you're in there with some girls boxing you up,
Right.
just piecing you up,
And they just smell
they
that.
get you in the corner. You're like, and then all
I
of a
could
sudden
see
you're
it
on your feet
making
again.
you like angry too.
Yeah. I would think it'd probably be good to mask any symptoms of you being hurt.
Should have had that on the shit stick.
Yeah, imagine just swallowing a ball and that to kill yourself.
But that's better.
Probably take a long time.
You don't think you would die from that right away? It's ammonia.
I wonder. Okay. How much ammonia would you have to consume for it to be lethal, Jamie?
I feel like a cup.
This is not even a cup.
Well, that's in
I
crystal
think it'd be
form though.
prolonged. If it's amount of time, it'd probably do it.
But if you just down this whole thing, it should kill you. Yeah, the whole thing. I feel like we shouldn't be giving anybody any
Probably
ideas.
not. People who were like eating Tide
Definitely
Pods don't.
Right? That was
That's
real.
that's a crazy time.
I
Where
think
like
China did that to us. I think they tricked us on
Into
the internet.
taking
Yeah, they got
Tide
some
Pods.
like fake people to pretend to eat Tide Pods and talk to dumb kids.
like,
into
remember when they
eating
were
it.
locking up detergent because kids were eating Tide Pods? Where you're like, I don't know, man. If you're eating those Tide Pods, you deserve it.
Yeah. We're always gonna have kids do stupid shit. There's no way around that.
Tide Pods is probably
I'm lucky
One of
Tide
the
Pods
top.
weren't around when I was a kid.
you would have definitely been eating them.
I know somebody who would have ate them. There's always that one kid in the neighborhood who'll do anything to get attention. He'll
They
eat a
do
bug.
feel cool though. They're like soft and
What is it?
detergent.
Oh, it's your Tide Pods.
What are you saying, Jim?
They were saying this is probably how this got into sports. They thought it counteracted head trauma.
Right. Yeah. Wakes you up.
Not just, but I mean, fully, like if you were knocked out,
Right.
which you have, I mean, you had I know it would wake you up, but like they thought it like fixed you.
Right. They thought it brought you back. Well, they didn't know shit back then.
I still smell it.
I mean, when do you think they figured out brain damage? When they start figuring out if you get punched in the head too many times, you lose your ability to communicate.
I think they probably knew it pretty early, and they were like, "I'm betting on this game." Let them keep it in each other.
Well, they definitely knew about it because boxers were washed up, even in the 50s and the 60s. But I don't think they understood the extent of it until probably like the 60s and the 70s. People started discussing like being punch drunk boxers. Like I think boxers knew about it, but I think like the general public, it wasn't really a big thing.
What about football people that concussions and stuff?
Yeah, for sure. They get it real bad. All of them, all contact athletes, your head getting jarred like that. But I think for us, the big one was Muhammad Ali, because Muhammad Ali was such a cultural hero, and to see Muhammad Ali in the later stages of his life, like unable to communicate and shaking, is like very disturbing. Because as much as they try to tell you that had nothing to do with boxing, like come on,
It definitely did.
of course it did.
You jostling your brain around.
But there's also a trauma-induced Parkinson's is a real thing.
Right.
And so when you see people that are like Freddie Roach, he was a boxer and now he's a famous trainer. He has trauma-induced Parkinson's. Is a shake that he tells you is from his career as a boxer. It's something that happens to people. So when you see it happen to someone like Muhammad Ali, you're like, fuck.
Right, because this guy's like the sign of strength.
Oh, not just a sign of strength, but the way he would talk was so different than any other boxer. He was so fast. He was so funny. Like Howard Cosell called him truculent once. You seem very truculent, champ. He goes, whatever truculent is, if it's good, I'm that.
That's a great answer.
He had so many funny things that he said. He was the first guy that was like talking shit in a funny way and getting the whole world to pay attention. You know, he said one of his opponents, I forget who it was, he goes, have you ever dreams he beat me, you better wake up and apologize.
It's funny.
He just said some funny things he would say, but also like refused to fight in the Vietnam War. He said, hey man, fuck you, I'm not going over
Yeah,
there.
good for him.
Yeah. And then lost his ability to make a living for 3 years because of it. Like the prime 3 years of his career was
Right.
taken from him because he refused to fight in the Vietnam War. So he was a lot more than just a fighter. He was like a cultural icon who defined rebelling against a corrupt and evil system. And then, eventually at the end of his life, he was a victim of the sport that made him famous. And we watched it.
Right.
And that's the first time we ever watched someone go from, just celebrated for the way he talked to being unable to communicate at all.
This gives two very different versions of when it was discovered.
Ancient Egypt. 1848, Phineas Gage, a railroad worker, survived a traumatic brain injury when an iron rod shot through his skull and destroyed much of his left frontal lobe. Gage's personality changed dramatically, and his case considered a landmark in the study of brain damage and personality.
We got pictures of that.
Yo, let's see the pictures. Oh boy. Oh
Let me see that. Let me see this.
Right through.
Oh my God.
He didn't feel much pain.
Oh boy.
He was throwing up for every 20 minutes, but he was lucid and remained talking the whole time.
So he just made like his hair part over the hole in his
It said
head?
he had obliterated his left frontal lobe, but
Oh.
he survived the accident of a 13-inch railroad rod.
Is that the rod that he has in his
That's crazy.
hand?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, Christ.
He's kept it?
That could be a gun or
That
something.
looks like
No,
a
that looks like the
Yeah,
rod,
yeah,
dude.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the thing that went through his fucking head and he lived.
And now he's keeping it.
Oh, that's what it looked like. Oh my God.
Wait, so it didn't go through his eye?
It went through his head and destroyed his eye.
Uh,
What do you think that, what did it say it did to his personality?
So this was like the first study in psychologists changed psychology.
3 more
What did it say,
headshots,
how
15
did it
long
say
shots,
affected
50
his
kills.
Phineas Gage on second thought. That's interesting. What does that say that on the top? The title of it?
Before profane and hostile afterwards.
A re-examination of the famous case of a man whose personality changed from a grievous brain injury. Uh-huh. Okay, wait a minute. Yeah. Yeah.
No laser.
Yeah, it's hard to know. This is a funky site.
You do this afterwards.
I mean, I bet he wasn't a good time to be around.
Need
Well, it
rapid
does
fire.
definitely
Oh,
dramatically
mother.
change people. Like, I was reading about this guy who developed
Oh,
the
mother.
ability to see mathematics in like geometric form, and it's called acquired savant syndrome. So this guy started creating geometric art. Like, apparently had no interest in mathematics at all, and then I think he got mugged. I think he got beat up, and then developed some bizarre mathematical ability.
I mean, that's better than the people that have like traumatic brain injuries and become pedophiles. Like, definitely.
This bitch funny.
Kinnison, both got hit by cars. Both changed their personality dramatically afterwards. It's probably like quite a few people that just got knocked in the head and then became a different person.
Right.
But
It's really weird. It's a
Didn't you-
sketchy thing.
250 kills already.
Medicine.
3
Oh,
headshots.
The joke about, yeah, the Parkinson's drug. That's true. That's true.
Crazy.
It's so crazy. Yeah, it's called a dopamine agonist. And apparently with some people, it completely removes their inhibitions.
Right, he was gambling.
Gambling, gay sex, just went off the rails.
Gambling,
Lost
gay
Like
sex.
600,000 or something.
Oh my god, Joe.
But then when he stopped taking the
Joe!
Back to normal. He's like, what the fuck was I doing? He won in court, which is the craziest thing.
Yeah, you said,
he
but he
sued
lost-
GlaxoSmithKline.
Right, but he lost
He
more
lost
money.
as much money as he gained back, and was also raped twice.
Nice.
No, once, I think. He was just
He was
randomly
raped or
picked-
he raped?
He was raped. He
Oh,
was
okay.
raped. They picked a guy up on Craigslist.
I guess he didn't see
He
that.
just became addicted to gay sex and gambling.
Nice.
Stop doing that, and then you're like, wow, I remember all those dicks I took.
Yeah.
That was a crazy
Yeah.
time.
Well, he was a different human. Like, his brain, like, we don't think about it this way, but your brain is essentially this functional ecosystem of all like these different things, dopamine and serotonin, all these neurotransmitters, and then the blood that's flowing through your body. It's all operating on this sort of like fairly regular schedule of what's available to use and how you interpret consciousness based on the chemicals. And then all of a sudden, you introduce this new shit, and this new shit makes you want to suck cock and play bingo.
It's just
You
crazy
can't
that
stop
both
it.
of those things are like the same in this guy's head.
Well, it's just wild impulses. I'm sure he had probably other impulses. I don't know if he got more violent, but that sometimes happens when people can't control. You know, like someone cuts you off in traffic, and you might be like, oh, this fucking idiot.
Right.
But they just fucking can't take it. They just want to just drive someone off the road. They just lose their impulse control. That happens to people with CTE as well. A lot of people with CTE, they have a very short fuse, like very short fuse.
Didn't they think that happened with Aaron Hernandez?
Yeah, they said he had the worst CTE I think that they had ever diagnosed. And he was alive at 28. You know, so he wasn't, well, he's dead, obviously, because they did an autopsy, but I mean, he was alive at 28 before he killed himself with the worst CTE they had ever seen. So it hadn't even killed him,
Right.
but it had destroyed his brain. I mean, his brain was destroyed. He was just filled with holes.
Crazy.
Crazy. They said that when they studied football players, there's
So I
some
need
extraordinary
15 long
players
shots.
that have CTE. It's in like the high 90%. And this is not just college. This is high school,
But
college.
all those people that have those high CTE counts, like they're not killing people either.
Some of them. You know,
Not a lot.
No, not a lot. But the thing about it is, first of all, when it's over, there's a lot of them want to kill themselves. That's a big thing with that happens with fighters. It happens with soldiers. Also, the PTSD compounding the fact that they have brain
Right.
injuries. A lot of heavy depression. So 345 former NFL players with chronic traumatic encephalopathy out of 376 former
That's not a
players
long
studied.
shot.
So out of all those people studied, only 31 dudes didn't have it. So it's 91.7%. Among those diagnosed,
That's a
with
long
last
shot.
two
One.
former players who once represented the teams paired in this Sunday's Super Bowl. Former Philadelphia Eagles quarterback. Could you do me a favor and just Google Aaron Hernandez CTE with results?
Highest, I don't know if the stage is stage 3. Worst you've ever seen in someone that young.
Yeah,
Cause he was, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He wasn't playing as long as some of these other people.
that's what's crazy. Range of symptoms including emotional and behavioral changes, memory loss, and depression. Yeah.
Damn.
It's nuts. It's nuts, and it's 91%
It's
of
crazy
the players.
too that you just keep playing football because you make so much money from it.
Well, I think Aaron Hernandez was a violent dude already. You know, there was like a lot of abuse in his childhood, and there's a lot of crazy stuff. So
Sure.
I think there was a lot going on with that guy.
Right, so he might have been a little unhinged.
Right? At least one. I think he murdered at least two.
I thought
They
it
think
was
he
like-
murdered two.
Yeah, I
Right.
thought it was two.
I think one is like confirmed. How many people did Aaron Hernandez murder?
I know I thought it was 3.
I mean, dude's playing in the
Acquitted of a
NFL.
double homicide.
Playing in the NFL. Superstar. Also, just gunned people down. With one of the worst examples of CTE they've ever
Found
discovered.
guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison.
Did he hang himself? Is that how he died? Did he hang himself? You imagine like an injury like that dude with the rod through the brain, and now all of a sudden you're a totally different person. Like all your life you've been one person, and then gone. That person's gone.
Kind of fun.
Maybe not.
There's only one way to find out.
Bzz. You would try, like you would want to know like how hard do I have to get hit in the head to be really good at math? Like you don't want to overdo it.
No, you don't want
know?
to. You're like, keep pushing me. I still can't figure this equation out.
Just one more kick to the face, please. I think we're right there. I think I'm starting to see geometry,
Oh, that's crazy.
but it doesn't happen to everybody. That's what's weird.
No.
Some people make some great comments. Some people just make some brain dead.
Yeah. There's a fine line between genius and brain dead.
In everything. All right, should we wrap this up?
Let's wrap it up.
It was really fun.
Yeah.
Always
for
is.
having me.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
You're very funny. I really enjoy your comedy. I love the risks you take. You know, you just go for it. It's fun to watch. It's great. It really is. It's fun. It's a different thing than anybody else is doing, and people love it. I think there's a reason for that. And I think you're like one of those people that they have to find out about you to appreciate you. And you know, that happened with a lot of people. That happened with like Stephen Wright. That happened with like Mitch Hedberg. Like people had to like know what they were coming for to really
Sure.
appreciate it.
Do you hear that? Do you remember that story? I don't know if when Mitch Hedberg did his special for Comedy Central. It took so long because he was like bombing the whole way through. You never heard that?
No.
I mean, and he's like a genius, but like
Yeah.
his special, he was not doing well, and they kept filming it, and like finally he's like sitting down on those stairs because I think he had been at it for a while. And you watch that special, and it's like hilarious. He's like a genius, so
Yeah.
funny, but like, yeah, in the room it just was not going well.
Well, it all depended with Mitch on also who is there a complimentary opening act that makes sense.
Sure.
Like he would have guys on the road, he would like have a middle act on the road that the club would provide.
Holy shit.
Backflips and singing songs.
Right, that's not a great person for you to follow.
It's terrible. And so people didn't know who he was back then. It was just
Right.
who's the headliner. Oh, there's
Sure.
a guy named Mitch Hedberg. Like, why does he have sunglasses on? Why is he staring at the ground? Like,
Yeah.
but once they knew who he was, then they would come to see him, and then it was awesome. And I think there's a thing like that with you.
Well, what's funny too is like Louis, directed it, and he's like,
Fuck
let's do this thing. At first, he was like, let's do this thing where nobody knows each other. doing a special. He's like, you know, you're just going out there and like, you know, usually half the crowd loves me and half the crowd doesn't. So I was like, let's do one show like that.
So next Thursday?
And
Yeah, I
that show,
figured.
I tap danced the whole way. And it was
I
so
figured.
cool. I left that, the first 2 shows we did, I was like, the first one was okay and the second one was so brutal because none of them knew who I were. They didn't know I was doing a special. They just thought they were coming for a regular show. And I'm up there for an hour. And people, like, there was like 7 people that liked me, but like, we all left so dejected. Like, Louis was like, I can't even watch this. And Ari, I seen Ari being like so depressed. And then I went home that night and I was like, I'm gonna have to quit comedy.
Oh my god.
10 more
And then
long
the next 2
shots.
shows the next night were amazing, but like, yes, I'm not for everyone.
Yeah, you're not for everybody.
Not even my biological father.
Well, you're for me. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So, one more time, Jamie, show it. It's available now. Netflix, The Dark Queen. Tell people
Oh,
your
could work on the goblin.
It's just my name, Adrian Appalucci.
Spell it though, because people like
Sure.
that's Appalucci must mean A,
I know. Well, also too.
but you have an I first. This
I
funky
know.
I.
But everyone always thinks it's an L, so that's why I was like, we need to use
Oh.
a font where it's an I. So it's ADRIENNE, and then the last name's I.
Fuck.
Just change your last name to an A. Just put an
I've-
A there.
I mean,
Just one
everyone
big
thinks
A.
it's an L.
How about just change it one big A, so
I
people
feel
know
like-
how to say it.
I feel like I like being a little difficult.
You do. That makes sense. Keep it that way. Don't listen to me. Thank you very much.
Thanks for
Appreciate you very
having
much.
me.
Bye, everybody.
And
was
he was
saying-
people
yeah.
convinced him not to do it. But it's like at a certain point you're like, okay, first of all, the spying that Snowden exposed was
It's 1 in the
weaponized against
morning?
you.
Right.
You're like they spied on you. So you
Amazing.
kinda, I would think you have some like stake in being like, yeah, that should be exposed and should be abolished.
But don't you think he didn't pardon him because he wanted a second term and he wanted
Yeah.
to like
I think
make
that was part of it,
things
yes.
run as smoothly as possibly and try to.
The thing
they're
is, he also-
compromising. They're making deals here.
Yes, but he also had a lame duck period. I mean, he had a
Right.
period where he knew he wasn't going to have a
Right,
second term and
but-
still had the power, but he was
but-
worried about the impeachment.
And he wanted to run again.
Yes.
He
Yeah.
always wanted to run again. He was going to run again. He was
I
like,
think so, yes.
Fuck you, I'm running again.
Yes, so there's a fair point to that. Maybe now Donald Trump gets in, and I do think this is what the corporate media and all of them are really terrified about, is that now he gets in and he doesn't need to win another election. I mean, he'd like to win a midterm election and keep I mean, he's got the Senate now, we'll see. The House hasn't been determined yet, but he'd like to keep, congressional control within the Republican Party. But he doesn't need to worry about a re-election now. If he really wanted to be the drain the swamp guy,
Yes.
he's got an opportunity now where a lot of things have aligned, where it's like, I think he could really get it done, and I think he could get away with it. I think that he's taken all their bullets, both literally and metaphorically. He's been impeached. He's been convicted of felonies. He's been shot at. He's like all the things have already happened. He's been demonized in a way that no public figure has been demonized in any of our lifetimes.
And it's
he
only
survived all
made
of it.
him more popular.
Yes, he's stronger. He's stronger than he's ever been.
What do you think about that thing I sent you today that compares the number of people that voted in 2020 versus the number of people that voted in 2024 and in 2016
Sure does look strange.
and in 2012? Have you seen it, Jamie?
What the fuck is this? Alright.
It's crazy.
I would say
I can send it to you if you want to see the exact chart.
that is a fair point. There are still votes out there. I'd like
Right.
to take a look at that again after 100% of everybody has been reported, but it does certainly seem weird.
Let's not get technical and let's just enjoy it. I'm gonna send you this, Jay, because it's so bizarre that I can't really believe it's real. When did I send it to you? Earlier today? It's so crazy. You look at it and you go, is this real? Oh, here it is. Because it doesn't seem to make any sense, because this is like one of the most consequential elections ever. I think everybody's pretty aware of that, and everybody is very dug in on their side. The left, he's Hitler. The right, he's saving us. And so more people voted.
This gun blows
at least-
fucking
at least the indication
chunks.
would be. As much people voted in 2020, if not more, probably more people voted. But let's look at the numbers. Like, look at the difference in how many people voted for Biden in 2020. It's unprecedented. It's way higher than any other time since 2012, and I'm sure probably before that there was less people back then, right? So if you go back to when I was a kid, there was only like 200 million people in this country.
Yeah, and to be clear, 2012 and 2016 were not low turnout years.
No, they're
Like,
all consistent.
yeah.
This is what's crazy. They're consistent. Look, they're all like 60. Look at where the number is. It's all like 65 million. Is that what it says? So that's all the same every fucking time except 2020. In 2020, it goes way the fuck up. Look at it. It's like 80 what? Is it 82? Is that what it was? 81.
Yep.
So it goes up a fucking sizable chunk, and only once.
And it does seem like even with getting all the other votes in, you're not going to get to that.
But it's also like, look how many votes Trump got. He got even more in 2020 than he did in 2024. Like, what the hell's that about? Is that because they haven't counted all the votes yet when they made this, or is that the reality of the numbers? Because that doesn't make sense either.
Yeah. And well, and you know, I just say, you know how in like the corporate media world, it's like this is the biggest crime ever to even ask this question? But you kind of can't blame us for asking it when everything you say is a lie.
The ballots that came in the middle of the night are weird. And the fact that you had mail-in ballots, that's weird. Because the thing about mail-in ballots is different than anything else. It's not a chain of custody, all right? This guy drops it off in the postal. They used to be going postal. Postmen used to be scary because they shoot a bunch of people.
yeah.
I don't know how they fixed that. But there
Yeah,
was
that did stop.
Yeah, there was a
Good
time
point.
they were like fucking separating things by zip codes and like enough. And they were just killing everybody in their office.
You remember the old Seinfeld bit on the show?
No.
Where he has Newman's a postman, and he's like, "Why do you guys always like go crazy and just kill people?" He's like, "'Cause the mail never stops." It's so funny. It's just it keeps coming.
Yeah, that was always my suspicion. It's just like a mundane job. That's like, and you're working with these people you don't like, and then one day you're like, I'm gonna fucking kill everybody.
Yeah.
But there was a bunch of those guys who it became a term. There was a video game called Postal. In the video
really?
game, you just ran around shooting people. Yeah, it was a crazy game.
Yeah, that was a better time.
It was, but this was like the 90s that all this was going on, and something happened, and they stopped fixing it. So my point is, who knows what that post guy's doing? Like, you could just throw some stuff in the garbage. If you know you're in a Republican county, throw some stuff in the garbage. If you're a cab driver from some other country, and you're over in America, and someone says, I'm gonna give you a bag of ballots, and they put them in your trunk, and you know, go take them to this place. You're like, okay. You know, like, you're gonna give me $500? Okay, I'll drop off these ballots. Like, when you're doing like low-level scams in like small counties where you have corrupt people that are working the voting machines, how many Republicans are paying attention? How many Democrats are paying attention to the corrupt Republicans? There's always been election fraud. To pretend that we lie about the very fine people, he said there were very fine people on both sides. Obama's lying about that in front of the whole world. They lie about everything. You don't think they would cheat?
Well, that's right, exactly. If every word that comes out of your mouth is a lie,
Right.
that you can't tell me that I'm not allowed to suspect. And also, you know, if what Rachel Maddow says is real, right? Like, if you're telling me your worldview is essentially that Adolf Hitler is running for president, it looks like it's a coin flip if he's going to win. That's what they were telling us, that it was 50-50. Turns out it wasn't. But Adolf Hitler's running. This is the end of democracy. It's on the ballot. We'll never have elections again if this guy wins. So if that's true, then why wouldn't somebody who's got a bunch of ballots for him cheat? I would do that. If Adolf Hitler was about to win, I'd cheat to make sure he won. If Adolf Hitler's about to win, you should do anything you can. So you're going to tell me on one hand, Adolf Hitler's about to take over America, and on the other hand, but no one would ever cheat? No one would ever
break the rules to stop Hitler?
The conversation that people, the dumb American pop conversation is, would you murder a baby if that baby was Adolf Hitler? You know what I mean? Like, that's the pop question that people ask about Adolf Hitler. Yeah. And I think the implied correct answer is yes. You're supposed to say, I would murder baby Hitler.
I'll wait till he's 17.
Yeah, probably feel a little bit better about yourself.
Yeah, by the time he's 17, I'd know he's a piece of shit.
And you could run a real good experiment on like nurture versus nature,
Right.
like raise
You
them
can fix 'em.
loving, be nice.
Give him some mushrooms.
Yeah, there you go.
Fix that little fucker.
But anyway, but you're saying someone wouldn't. It's also, it's like, it's not even just that they're liars who are in the business of propaganda. It's that it's incoherent propaganda. Your propaganda doesn't even make sense. Like, if propaganda point A is true, then propaganda point B is impossible to be true. It's and one of the things that I'm so happy that Trump won about, you know, is she just needed to lose. Like this, there's a certain line of that they cross that you're like, we need to be in a country where that doesn't work. Like
Yeah.
that can't work.
Well,
It's just too far.
Here's one of the most important precedents. You can't have someone that's running that didn't go through a primary.
Yep.
You have to at least go through and respect the process of allowing us to pick who our representative is. No one would have picked her. She didn't, when she was trying to run for president, Tulsi Gabbard nuked her out of orbit, and that was it for her. She dropped off a cliff, and that was done, and that's how it should have been until
Yeah.
Biden picked her as his vice president. Get away from that. You should always have a primary. Like, if you really believe in the democratic process and if you really believe in the Democratic Party, you should want the best representative of your party as voted for by the population.
100%. And then
That you can't have someone bypass that because you have a complete puppet.
100%. And then in addition to that, just think about how crazy this is. You're going to bypass the democratic process, and then you're running on democracy is on the ballot.
Right.
I mean, this is just too much.
Amazing.
It's too much. You want to like punch yourself in the face. Like you
Yeah.
can't do that to me.
It's
You
so
can't say
awesome.
that.
Well, they've been so used to doing it before. They had full, complete control of the narrative because they own the media, and they own the media for so long. They had the run of the roost for so long that they got cocky, and they didn't pay attention to the game as it was evolving. They're like a UFC 1 fighter that, you know, takes time out of the gym, then steps into 2024 and tries to compete against guys of today. Like, you missed the game. The game is way past where
Yep.
you were. And you guys are still doing goofy shit, like taking people out of context and not knowing that people are going to make YouTube clips showing what he actually said versus you. And it's going to undermine your credibility even more. Obama was my favorite president. He was the best spokesman, other than Clinton, of all time. Now I think he's a liar.
Yeah.
I look at that thing of him saying, he said there's verified people on both sides. That's not what he said. He
Yeah.
said, I'm not talking about the KKK and white supremacists. They should be condemned.
It was so clear.
So
he made
clear.
it totally clear. And what he was saying was that there were very fine people on both sides of the arguments about tearing statues down.
Yes.
Like he was saying, look, it's reasonable that there are some people who are like, no, this is our history, we want to keep it up. And then there's other people who are like, this represents slavery or something like that, we
Yes.
want to take it down. And then, first off, it was clear when he said it that that's what he meant. And then they asked him a follow-up question. Are you saying the white supremacists are very fine people? He goes, no. How many times do I need to say that?
Yes.
No, I am not saying that any of the white supremacists, and like that's not enough.
And then there was a sneaky thing that they used to do. They would ask him, will you disavow white supremacy? Will you disavow white supremacy? Like, what are you talking? First of all, that's like saying to someone, like, will you...
Yeah, honestly, I think
anything, any
Jorgie might be
crime
number
that you would
one.
never do. Like,
Right.
will you disavow murder? Like, of course.
Xander might have, like, the last, like,
You're
week or
implicated
two,
in something
but
where you have to disavow
Jorgie's
murder.
got, like,
If
a
you're
month.
connected somehow or another to murder.
Like, if we're talking, like,
D-
total
Smith,
time.
Under any circumstances, do you disavow murder? You're like, I'm not murdering anybody. What the fuck are you saying?
And
So-
after he had done it like maybe 100 times, no
Right.
exaggeration, they'd go, now you still haven't disavowed white supremacy.
Yeah, it
and he'd
does-
be like, no, I have.
over and over again.
Now, but
yeah.
to your point, which I think is a really good one, and I think I love the analogy for people who are MMA fans. It really is like it's like someone coming into MMA in 2024 and being like, I'm a jiu-jitsu specialist. I've never trained wrestling or striking.
Exactly.
And you're like, okay, that's not going to work anymore. Like I know that worked in 1993,
Yeah.
but like that's not going to work. It's they have not adapted to the new world that we're living in now. And you saw there was a lot of evidence of this. Like these things that used to work now come with a heavy price. So one of the things that politicians used to do in general was that they would give the same stump speech everywhere they go. Message discipline is what
Right.
it's called, and you always stay on message. And this is the idea, is that you're never going to get your message out there unless you say the same thing over and over again to everyone. But now we have the internet, and you have these compilations of Kamala Harris saying she's from a middle-class family like 75 times in a row, and you just look like a psychopath. You're like, oh, what are you? So now there's like a cost to playing the game in the old way, but they don't adjust. And Trump, whether even intentionally or not, was always just kind of like, oh, well, I just speak off the cuff. So I don't do that. You know, like, I mean, he's got themes that he hits a lot, like all of us kind of do.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do that, and he did. And Donald Trump, one of the brilliant things, and man, I mean, I can't believe I haven't just asked you this already about this, but one of the really brilliant things that Donald Trump did, which obviously, look, RFK did it, and Vivek Ramaswamy, I think both, like, they recognize, like, we're in a new landscape here, and there are these shows on the internet that have much bigger audiences than these traditional shows. Oh, and by the way, I get to go long, and I can really give an in-depth, you know, like, point on every single topic. And, dude, I mean, Trump coming on here and her refusing to, this is, I mean, dude, you kind of put Donald Trump in the White House. Like, this is amazing.
Settle down. People are listening.
Everyone's thinking it.
Well, for sure, him getting to be himself and just have a conversation with someone who's not being hostile.
Yeah.
You know, and I did ask him questions that I wanted answers to, like this proof that he lost in 2020. He did not provide me with that. And I've said, and we talked about it in depth yesterday, that if I was accused of election denying, which election denial, it's like there's Holocaust deniers, number one, and then there's maybe a vaccine denier and election denier. Election denier is probably a little higher than vaccine denier. You could be a kook and a vaccine denier but still believe that Donald Trump lost the election. But election denier, you're cast out of the kingdom. There's a couple other ones that go underneath that, but those are the big ones. Those are the big ones. And you get put into a box like instantaneously. If I was put in that box, I would have responses to every question. I would say, well, in Georgia, there were blah, 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 blah ballots that were blah, blah, blah. This would been, these people were dead. These people, they should have never been voting in the first place. They were not United States citizens. I would have all the information ready to fire. And he didn't. He was like, there's books, I tell you that. I have the suspicion that he's way busier than me. I can barely pay attention to things.
Yeah.
Sometimes I agree to do things, and my wife tells me we're going to do something. What are we talking about? She goes, you said yes to it yesterday. I did? When? You were making coffee. I wasn't paying attention. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Where are we going? You know, but that's just normal life stuff, right? This guy is literally running for fucking president. He's got, what, all these golf courses everywhere and businesses everywhere and Mar-a-Lago and fucking family. There's millions of things. So probably they told him the election was stolen. He told me, find the results, find it, let's get it overturned, these fucking criminals. I don't know how much he really looked into it. I don't know. I don't know how much he studied it, because
he didn't really have an answer for it.
I would want you to regurgitate it fact by fact, and I think Vivek could do that. If you ask Vivek a question about that, if you ask J.D. Vance a question about that, I bet if they were accused, they would be able to rattle off all those numbers and statistics.
I think that Vivek probably wouldn't make the claim exactly in the same way that Donald Trump is.
No, I'm saying if he was accused.
Yeah, oh yeah,
If he was
sure.
accused.
Well, yeah, no, Vivek isn't going to say anything without having like a
100%.
detailed answer to it. And
Nor
that's
is-
not Trump. That's not.
Nor is JD.
Yes, listen, Trump is different than Vivek and JD. He's a different type of animal.
There was
I mean,
so much evidence.
well, the thing is, one of the things that was really interesting, and that was one of the most interesting moments of your show with him, was that you weren't asking it the way CNN would ask it. You weren't badgering him and like you were, after having a very honest, good faith conversation for a while, you were asking in good faith, like, what's the evidence? And yeah, look, I think the truth is that his lawyers made a lot of outlandish claims, none of which they could prove in court. Essentially what he has in terms of the argument, I think is kind of what we have, what we just looked at. We're like, sure does look strange. Sure does seem weird to me that 80 million plus people voted for Joe Biden, and the regime was so working against him in every other way.
Right.
Like, Glenn Greenwald, who's, I think just one of the absolute, like, most brilliant people out there.
I agree.
His work is incredible.
I love that guy.
I love the way he put it. I thought it was perfect. Where he goes, he's like, I don't really have any evidence that they stole the election from him, but they clearly rigged the thing against him. And then just kind of goes through like all the censorship, the Hunter Biden story, the media. And so in that environment, it's very easy. You know, the analogy that I use, I think I may have said this before to you, but it's almost like if there's a guy who's like cheating on his wife all the time, and then one day she's like, last Friday you didn't answer your phone when you were out. I know you were cheating on me. And she's wrong. He wasn't cheating that Friday.
Right.
But, like, she's kind of right even though she's wrong. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, she might get the detail wrong,
Yeah.
but her overall suspicion is in fact correct. I
Yeah.
think there was a lot of that with Trump supporters. Where it's just like, listen, man, you framed him for treason for 3 years of his
Yeah.
presidency. Then you shut down the economy, and that was totally, partially at least, to ruin his economy for his re-election year. Then you were totally supporting the riots that were destroying, you know, like you were just causing chaos. Then you overhauled the way we do votes, and you killed his big October surprise story by censoring it off all the social media sites. And now you're telling me the most unimpressive senator in the history of America, Joe Biden, got 80+ million votes. He got more votes than Obama in 2008. Really? Like, this just smell. But that is not something you
not
can
enough.
take to court.
Right. That's not something you can say definitively as a fact and defame people and slander people.
Right.
And that's where Giuliani's fucked, right? Giuliani got hit with a huge lawsuit. How much was it? Like 150
I don't
million?
remember. It was a lot. But but also Rudy Giuliani is a lawyer, and he should know that, like, you kind of can't say that unless you got something to really present.
And the
was
way
it
you should
Powell
say it is
said-
by presenting the evidence. You
Yeah.
shouldn't even make claims. You should probably just present the evidence.
Well, they were saying, I mean, Sidney Powell right, and Giuliani.
$148 million damages verdict adds to Rudy Giuliani over his legal lies about 2 Georgia election workers. So what did he say that these ladies did?
So this is a defamation suit?
It must be. What did he say that they did? Defamation case brought by 2 former Georgia election workers marks a new low point for the man once lauded as America's mayor, whose advocacy of Donald Trump's false election claims led to criminal charges and hefty legal bills. What did he say that they did? What did he say? Let's find out what his statements were. See if you can find it.
Remember when Ron Paul destroyed Rudy Giuliani? On the debate
So-
stage?
Here it says Giuliani
Since this is different.
accuses him of participating in a wide-range conspiracy to thwart the will of Georgia's voters who had selected Democrat Joe Biden over Republican incumbent. He faces 13 charges, including violation of Georgia's anti-racketeering law, the federal version of which was one of his favorite tools as a prosecutor in the 1980s. That's crazy. Because he's the one that took out Lincoln Bomb.
Yep.
Jesus Christ. So, but let's find out what he said, if we can. I'm interested.
Isn't it annoying that they make it so hard to find, like, the actual thing?
Yeah, lies he spread about them that upended their lives with racist threats. Well, what were the lies? What did he say? When it says upended their lives, click on that link. See what it says. Georgia election worker suing Rudy Giuliani tells jurors that his lies made her fear for her life. What the fuck did he say? Repeated false claims about her and her mother, saying that they were engaged in changing votes. I personally cannot repair my reputation at the moment because your client is still lying on me and ruining my reputation further, she told Giuliani's lawyer. She sobbed. She testified that her life was turned upside down by the accusations, though they were quickly debunked by state officials. Her attorneys displayed a few of the graphic messages accusing her of treason and more that she received after Giuliani in December of 2020 falsely accused workers at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta of tampering with ballots. You gotta have real evidence if you want to say something like that.
And again, Rudy Giuliani is a lawyer. Like, he should know that, you know?
California's only reported 54% right now, so that's somewhere in the range of 9 million plus votes.
Yeah,
Biggest missing.
Oh, so far still?
Yeah.
How do they not count it all?
Only
up?
54%.
Yeah, I don't know. This is
Good point.
updated too.
How are they, why are they so slow? They suck at everything over there now.
85 for Nevada, 73 or something for Washington and Oregon. Oregon's at 62%.
Ooh.
So they still have a lot to go up there. I don't know
Alright.
if that's
All right, so
20,
we'll see what these numbers look like.
But
when
at the
they
end of the
have them all
day, so there might still be more millions. So it might get close to the 80 million mark. I'd be interested to see, because then that's a misleading chart. I didn't know that there were so many that hadn't turned in their votes yet. That doesn't surprise me about California. Get your shit together, you fucking dorks.
Yeah, they can't do anything.
They're charging 14% in state taxes, then another 1% if you live in Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles, you get hit with another 1%. Dude, that's like agent and manager fees. You know?
Yeah.
You imagine, like, you make a good amount of money. Like, let's say you make $100,000 a year. You have to pay $140,000 to the government for what? For what? And then if you move to Tennessee, zero. Move to Texas, zero.
And they wonder why people are flooding out of their state by the hundreds of thousands.
And you can't even count the votes in time, you fucking knuckleheads. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. No, they can't do anything.
It's such a goofy state, just overburdened with regulations. You can't even have flavored vapes anymore.
Yeah,
Little
really...
Billy's hooked on the strawberry mist. You gotta take it out of the store to protect my little Billy. It's the strawberry that gets him. You can't have flavored Zins.
Well, and isn't it so, like, the whole, like, war on tobacco, which I guess takes on tobacco, but the whole, like, you know, like, crackdown on smoking and everything that kind of happened in my lifetime it's really, really wild when you take into account all the stuff that Bobby Kennedy talks about. Where you're like, yeah, but we're like the most unhealthy country. And you took away, like, yeah, a lot more people used to smoke cigarettes, and cigarettes aren't good for you, sure, but we were a healthier country when people were smoking cigarettes.
We need regulation. My little Billy and the strawberry vapes. Do you ever use Zins?
Occasionally.
No, these are Lucy's. These are espresso flavored. This is contraband in California.
Are these
are eights.
wait, are these the Tucker Carlson ones?
No. This is another company. Lucy's. These are breakers. They have a little thing in there. You break it. It gives you flavor. It tastes like coffee. Right down. Chew on it. Oh man, illegal in California. Right here, we're in
Yeah,
Texas.
this doesn't seem like it should be illegal.
Freedom.
In Texas.
No, if you want flavor, you have to have that and a stick of gum. If you live in California, you can get your cinnamon gum, and you can chew your cinnamon gum with your fucking no flavor Zin, and you can have a nice little experience, almost like you have a cinnamon Zin. But you're not allowed to have a cinnamon Zin because you're too much of a fucking baby. You can't control yourself.
Well, it's like, and
No
even
gambling
outside,
either, you fuck.
dude. I mean, you know, I'm on the road all the time. Yeah, right. And you go throughout this whole country, and it's like, yeah, people don't smoke anymore. That was effective. I mean, they not like the way they used to. You know, there's not people smoking cigarettes like that.
No.
But every single town I go to in this entire country has an Arby's and a Burger King and a KFC and like they have every single town, even when they have nothing else. They have every single type of fast food. And you look around and like everybody's obese, everyone's unhealthy. I mean, when you rattle off, you know, when Bobby Kennedy gave that speech when he threw his support behind Donald Trump, you know, I was watching that with my wife and my mother-in-law. They both like have tears in their eyes as he's just reading down the stats of how unhealthy we are as a country. It's just, you know, man, one thing, and I'm really, really glad that Bobby ran for president this year, and I'm really glad he ended up throwing his support behind Trump, and hopefully he gets a really important position in there. But the one thing that I almost felt like you couldn't argue with him, that even if you don't blame the same culprits that he blames, which is what they love to say, it's like, how is everyone not talking about this? How is this not an issue that every single presidential candidate has to address?
It's killing people.
Yeah. And our kids.
It's killing kids, and it's making people way more vulnerable to a host of other diseases, including cancers. It's terrible for you. Cardiovascular, like the 77%, I think, Bobby said, 73% of all American boys are not eligible for the military. So they are unfit to serve because they're either obese or they have a host of these metabolic conditions that have come about from poor diet.
Yeah.
And from poison, from eating poison. Essentially, you're slow dosing your body with poison and sugar all day long, and that's most people. And we don't do anything about that, but then we try to regulate vapes.
Yeah. Do you know Nicole Shanahan?
Yes. I haven't met her in person, but I actually did a FaceTime with her. Get her voice.
Really? That's an odd pairing together. I think she's great. I had her on my podcast a couple times. And it's just
Yes, 77% of young Americans between the age of 17 and 24 are not considered fit for military service. Unbelievable, dude. 11 mental health, and that's to set substance abuse, education, social and behavioral factors, criminal records. U.S. military is facing a recruitment crisis due to these challenges, as well as a lack of interest among young people. So it's only 11% is like physically so unhealthy that they can't do it. That's obesity, actually. So there's probably a bunch of other conditions other than obesity.
right.
Mental health issues. I wonder, it says significant factors. I wonder what number that is. I bet drug and alcohol abuse is a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one. It says 8% for drug and alcohol abuse. So I wonder how much the mental health is. I bet that's a big one. It doesn't say, does it? Let's find out. Because that seems like there's a lot of people out there that
Yeah.
medical,
Unfortunate.
physical health, drug and alcohol abuse 8%, medical physical health 7%. What does it say about mental though? Mental health and overweight conditions. Oh, there. 4% mental health, 7% medical physical only, 8% drug abuse, 11% overweight. Wow.
Dude, she
Look
Nicole,
at this 44% though, more than one reason or condition. 44, almost half.
No.
More than one of these problems that makes you ineligible.
dude, I was I can't remember what town I was in, but so Nicole Shanahan, who I think she's great. And it was really, really interesting. I had her on my podcast twice. Just really, really smart lady who really knows a lot about
Damn.
stuff. She sent me this like video that she posted, and so I'm in a hotel room, and I was there with my buddy Rob Bernstein, who's a co-host of my podcast, Part of the Problem. Very, very funny comedian, very smart guy. And so I was texting with him, and we were like on our way to go to the show. So I was like, hey, meet in the lobby in 10 minutes. And then I got an Uber taking us to the comedy club. I can't remember where we were. And Nicole Shanahan sends me this video. It was like a video that she put out on Twitter. And I didn't know what it was gonna be. You know, she just sent me it, and I just click on it and play it. And it was just about like what her family went through with their kids, you know, like illnesses and stuff. And it's like, and it's the most touching video ever. And I'm really sit down. It's so powerful that I sit down and I'm just watching this whole thing, and I started crying watching it. Because I got kids with health issues really cuts close to the bone for me. But as I'm sitting there just like literally sobbing, watching this video, it's so emotional. And then literally it just dawns on me in the middle of it that I'm supposed to meet my comedian friend in 1 minute in the lobby to go to this show. And I'm sitting here like, what am I doing? I'm sitting in my hotel room crying about these kids. But anyway, the point of it is that like, hey, look, I don't know enough about this stuff. You know, I know about stuff that I know about. I don't know enough about this. I really should educate myself more on it. But if your argument is that like that Bobby and Nicole are blaming the wrong culprits, you know, it's not the vaccines and it's not the Wi-Fi and it's not like, okay, I don't know, but like, what is it then? And why are you not interested in this? Right. Why are they the only ones who are talking about this? You're telling me we lead the world in chronic illness, and that's not something that comes up in any presidential election ever, right, other than when Bobby Kennedy runs for president? That's insane.
You don't think the increase in the number of autism cases is an area we should discover, we should look into, we should investigate? You think that that's all been figured out? Like, why are you so convinced?
And explain. I'm sorry. I'm letting you know that I'm somewhat ignorant on this subject. So just like explain it to me like I'm really, really stupid. Talk slowly. Okay, I can understand where if you're talking about very mild autism, okay, like what we used to call Asperger's, which I guess they don't call it that anymore. But if you're talking about mild autism and you want to convince me that that went undiagnosed in the past, I can totally believe that. There is no way that moderate or severe autism went undiagnosed. It may have not been correctly diagnosed, but you did not notice that. Like,
But
I'm
there's
sorry. It's,
enough of a rise in numbers that it should be a concern.
there's no
for
way.
everyone.
I'm saying there's
Yeah.
no possible way that there isn't an increase going on
Right.
here, because obviously, even in the 1940s or in the 1950s, if someone was non-verbal, they would have noticed that.
Yeah.
They would have noticed that this. You know what I mean? Like
If there
this
was a lot of kids like that in your school, you would know.
There's no way you would have called it something. Maybe
Yeah.
you wouldn't have like understood it the way we understand it today. And thank God people do understand it better. And there's a lot more tools that are provided, and there's a lot more awareness about it, and special schools and things like that. But come on, like there's, so much of this is it's one of the things that exposes the how full of shit our whole system is when you just see that there's no even desire to get to the bottom of this. It's like the Trump assassination attempts.
But not only that,
no
there's
desire.
there's no desire to get to the bottom of it, and it's about children,
Yeah.
which are the most vulnerable people that we all should be protecting. But they're so entrenched in this ideology that you have to trust science. And if you're a vaccine denier, you're a bad person. Like, no one's a vaccine denier. What we're saying is there may be a correlation, and there may be something that, if investigated, it shows has been covered up. And there may be a situation where the vaccine companies have complete immunity to prosecution.
Yeah.
They can never be held liable, which was the only way that they could still manufacture these things, because they said that they cannot be safe and effective.
Yes,
They
and it's-
cannot be safe for everybody. There's going to be side effects.
That's exactly right, dude.
And they can't be liable
well,
for those side effects, because then they would go under. This is what set this whole chain in motion, where when I was a kid, you got 3 vaccines, now you have 72.
Right.
It's wild.
And it reminds me kind of you remember like when they were trying to push the COVID passports, the vaccine
Yes.
passports, and the logic would just fall apart on
Yeah.
its face. Like you're like, wait a minute, you're telling me the vaccine is 100% effective. You're saying if you take the vaccine, you can't get COVID or spread COVID, and then you're also telling me that the people who are vaccinated in this restaurant need to be protected from the unvaccinated entering this restaurant. That doesn't make sense.
No.
I'm sorry, I'm not a genius, but I can figure out the logic in that is flawed, okay?
Also-
and in the same sense though, it's like, so what is if you're arguing that all these vaccines are safe and Bobby Kennedy's a kook, then why do they need the liability protection?
Yes, absolutely. There was also another thing that they did that didn't make any sense, because it went against the science. And it was saying that if you don't get vaccinated, it's going to cause variants. And that's not what they say.
Yeah.
What people who study viruses and vaccines say is you do not vaccinate during a pandemic with a non-sterilizing vaccine. So meaning if you give it to someone and they can still transmit and they can still catch the disease, you're going to cause
Right.
these variants. And there is a scientific paper that I posted like early into the pandemic that said this, and people got so upset at me. I'm
Yeah.
like, tell me what this says. What this said, there's virologists that would go on these podcasts. So, they'd have to be the people that are willing to step outside the line and say these things. They're saying this is not what you ever do during a pandemic, because you're going to create variants. And that's exactly what happened. And doctors started blaming the variants on the unvaccinated. But if you question those doctors, explain to me how that works. There's no fucking answer. It's just a narrative that they were having the vaccine good, anything else bad, ivermectin, you're crazy, killing people, death, blood on your hands. It was all a psyop, and it was super effective. And it was a way for them to make ungodly amounts of money. And that's what it was. And the quicker we accept that and realize that we're vulnerable to that kind of shit, if we still keep following along the same kind of lines that we're on today, as soon as we realize that, the better off we all are, all of us.
Yeah, and I think I got here in a kind of similar way to you, which is I think a story for like millions of Americans, is that I never even thought about this issue. I never dove into reading a lot about any vaccine until there was this COVID vaccine. And then I really dove into it and read a lot about it and found out that you guys were lying through your fucking teeth about the whole goddamn thing. And that the whole clinical trials were totally rigged and totally fake, and that you were able to get everybody in the the scientific institutions of our government to all repeat these lies. And then everybody in the corporate media and the political class to repeat these lies. And then when Bobby Kennedy came along and said, well, you know how that was all bullshit? There's a lot of bullshit with these other vaccines. I was like, I'm listening. That doesn't seem unreasonable to me.
It doesn't seem unreasonable at all. And the fact that they were trying to silence legitimate scientists, doctors, professors at major universities for stepping outside the lines. They're trying to remove them from Twitter. They were trying to silence them. They worked in conjunction with the original Twitter to do that. They silenced real experts. You know, and when that lady from Twitter had to testify in front of Congress, it was amazing. That was amazing. You watch those people grill her. Like, are you a doctor? Like, why are you silencing doctors? Like,
It was
what
the
do
same.
you do?
That was the same. The one you had on, right?
Yes.
With Tim Pool.
Yes.
And one of the interesting things about that was, that was a great, still probably one of my all-time favorite JRE episodes. But it was when they were arguing that like they don't have a bias, and then I think Tim was like, yeah, but you ban people for like dead naming or
Right.
misgendering,
Right.
And she was like, well, yeah, I mean that's hateful. And you're like, yeah, but that's a bias. Like that right there is a
Right.
bias.
That's a bias.
And it's one thing when you're just talking about like whether we're calling somebody a boy or a girl, but then you realize like, oh, you have the exact same thing when it actually comes to like very important medical information about a product that Americans are being forced to take.
Right.
This is madness.
No matter what you say, they're being forced. They're being forced if they want to fly. They're being forced if they want to work in a place that has more than 100 people. If the workplace mandates it. Forced if they want to go to a university. Forced.
And they were implementing in a totally unconstitutional way. They were going to, through OSHA, through workplace safety, like just the most blatantly unconstitutional proposal, that Joe Biden was going to make it the law of the land that every single business with 100 people or more had to have everybody vaccinated. And it was only because of Donald Trump's Supreme Court that got struck down. And that's something that people who are paying attention remember. And so, like, okay, you can demonize Donald Trump all you want to, but how many millions of Americans were not fired from their job, did not lose their livelihood because they refused, or were not vaccine injured for a vaccine that they never needed to take? I mean, how many people fell into the category that, like me and you and so many other people fell into, where we got the thing and beat it real quickly before we ever got vaccinated, and then just didn't need it. And then it just didn't make any sense, even with the information we had about the vaccine back then, which we have a lot more now. But even back then, I mean, you looked CNN's doctor right in the eyes, and he goes, "Well, are you going to get the vaccine?" You go, "No, I just beat COVID. Why would I need to?" And he had no answer for you. He had no reason why. There's no compelling reason why you
wanted me to
should.
join the team.
That's it.
That's all it is. Yep. I mean, I had a very intelligent friend that I had a conversation with. You going to get vaccinated now? I go, why would I do that? It was a weird conversation. I go, I beat it in 3 days. Like, I wasn't even that sick, man. Like, I made a video 3 days later explaining, and I got in trouble because I took the wrong medication to get better. Are you guys out of your fucking mind? Like, if you were really worried about people's health and safety, wouldn't you say, hey, what's this 57-year-old guy doing getting over this so easy?
Right.
What's he doing different?
Oh,
What's he doing different?
And you go, oh, he's very serious about his health. Oh, he takes really good care of himself. By the way, you enjoyed me giving the business to Chris Cuomo over that. That was one of my favorite moments of this year. That was a good one.
He was trying to do CNN outside of CNN. You know, like when he said, I've never said that. And then they pull up the clip, like, immediately of him demonizing.
Shout out to Patrick Bet-David's crew, because they really had my back on that one.
Yes.
You know, it's not like I didn't send them that clip before or anything,
Well,
but they in real time had that ready to go.
They had a
And
Jamie too.
Yeah, they had, everybody's got a Jamie now.
Not Jamie. There's only one Jamie.
There's only one Jamie, but there's a lot of knockoffs.
Yeah, a lot of knockoffs. But the fact that you checked him in real time and he just had to sit there and eat it, it's just, they were puppets. They were puppets for the system. They were doing it because that was their job. That's how you get ahead in your career. You want to be the main guy at CNN, that's what you do. And that's what they were doing. And now he's not doing it anymore. Good luck to him. I hope he does stay on an independent path and becomes an objective person. And he's made some strides towards that, I think. I think he's taken some fucking lumps, and I think you beat the fuck out of him in that debate. That debate was Mike Tyson's early fights. So fucking, you see that fucking white dude with the muffin top who just gets flatlined in 15 seconds. That's what that was.
I mean, look, man, and it's not really like a comment on me. It's not that I'm so amazing at debates. It's just like the argument here is so
You're pretty good
weak.
at debates. You're
Well,
pretty,
thank you.
pretty good at it.
I
You're pretty
appreciate
fucking
that.
good at it.
I'm not bad at it.
but also,
I'm just right
The
about this.
facts were on your side.
Yeah, I mean that's my superpower isn't that I'm like the smartest guy or the best at debates. It's just that like I'm right in what I'm arguing, and that makes it much easier. You know, I got there was an organization that was pitching me on a debate, a 2-on-2 debate, which I don't really like doing 2-on-2 debates. I've done like I
Too
think
many people
one.
talking.
It's too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
One-on-one is the way to do it. But they pitched me this like months after that. I think it was, I'm not right. I think the topic was about whether Joe Biden should drop out of the race or not. And they pitched me that it would be a 2-on-2 debate against two people. I don't remember who were saying he should stay in, and it was going to be me and Chris Cuomo against them. And I told them, I was like, no, I will not be on his side. And like, I don't, you know, I'm kind of over, you know,
Yeah.
we had our thing. I gave him a beating. I think he deserved it. But I'm just like, listen, man, I'll team up with like a left winger on something I agree with. I'll team up with a right winger on something I agree with. I'll team up with like a moderate on something I agree with. But no, not the corporate media guy who was the #1 show at CNN. Like, I'm not on their side. Even if I'm on their side on this issue, I'm against them. And I know that this has probably been a theme of like every single time I'm on this show over the last 10 years or whatever it's been. But I just... Maybe it's a problem. I hate
This episode's brought to you by Roka. And this is important, so don't skip this shit. Roka is for my fourth. Tap the banner.
I hate them so much. And I really think they deserve it. And it's not just that they lie about everything. It's like they lie about everything, and then they have the nerve to morally judge us. Like, if you just watch even just the last few weeks of the Trump election, they're not in the business of reporting the news. They're totally just in the business of making you feel like you're a bad person if you don't fall in line with the regime.
Right.
And, you know, like, it's like all of us know, right? Everybody knows this. America has this giant war machine, right? Like, we're just always at war. We're the most war-hungry country in the world. Even if we're taking a little bit of a break from a war, we'll fight 2 more proxy wars while we do that. America looks back at the 90s, Bill Clinton, as the time of peace and prosperity. We call it peace because we only fought a war in like Serbia and had a blockade around Iraq and were like bombing the crap out of Iraq with a few other military interventions in there too. You know, the UN estimated that Bill Clinton's sanction and bombing regime of Iraq, okay, everyone just thinks of George H.W. Bush's war and W's war, but Bill Clinton was bombing Iraq his whole day, and he had a full blockade around the country. The UN estimated that 500,000 children died of starvation or malnutrition due to the blockade. Now, I've heard people argue, by the way, that number is exaggerated. Maybe it wasn't 500,000, maybe it was only 100,000. So that's the time that we consider peace. When we were just starving 100,000 children to death in Iraq. And you, everybody in the corporate media, are in the business, every single one of those wars, you've sold them. Everyone, my entire life, the media has sold those wars. And you're gonna morally look down on me? You're gonna judge me? Motherfucker, you're in the business of baby murder. Get the fuck out of here. You're looking down, judging an American because maybe I'm gonna vote for Donald Trump, or maybe I dare to question the results of the last election. Fuck you, dude. And man, and it was a challenge debating him because they were playing the clips. You know, even before they played that clip that sunned him because he had said he didn't say that and then he clearly did, they were just playing the clips of the way they were talking to people during COVID and the pandemic of the unvaccinated, and it's you, Mr. Vaccine Skeptic, you're the reason why this and man, it was getting me angry. Like, I was just like, all right, I gotta control this here because this is too
How sweet is it that he's on ivermectin now?
I mean, it's
How
like,
sweet is that, though? That is the nuttiest part of it all.
Could you
Is that
just
this
set
poor
someone
guy-
up for
Not
a
only
better,
that,
like-
he wants to say long COVID. Like, hey, buddy, let me tell you something. If you got a novel medication injected into your body more than once, probably had to do it twice. You probably at least had to get 1 booster. And you have some problem, and you're saying this long-term problem is COVID, long COVID. Are you sure? Are you sure? Or maybe that medicine they injected into your body, you got vaccine injured. You don't want to say that, though, because you still want some sort of a job in corporate media, so you have to toe the line. You should be very concerned that this novel, before, never mass injected into people. Who knows how many different people are going to have different results from some medication, some terrible fucking weird way their biology interacts with this medication. It's going to cause a horrible side effect. And now you're on ivermectin to treat that. That's rich.
And the way he tried to spin it, that
It's for
he
long COVID.
wasn't, but he tried to say, because I mean he really should have just thrown in the white towel. He would have done much better for himself
Saying
in
I
that
was
debate.
wrong.
If you could
Yeah.
listen, I was at CNN. And I kind of just took for granted that they have the best experts, and so
Yes.
I trusted their experts, and now I realize they were. If he had said that, that would have been very hard.
Yeah.
I still would have been harsh on him, but it would have been a different conversation and a
Yes.
different dynamic. What he did was he refused to admit that, and then, and this is really what got me, is that then he started kind of like attacking my motives. Like he was like, oh yeah, no, he goes, I know that this is probably good for your podcast numbers and stuff, but well, like as if I don't really believe what I'm saying.
Well, because
I'm just
that's
doing this to make
how
money.
They function.
Right.
That's why they're accusing you of functioning that way. They're accusing you of doing things just because you know they're going to be outrageous and get a lot
Yeah,
of views.
which is, but like me, I don't do that.
I don't do that.
Yeah,
I don't do that.
No,
have
I
the
know you
number one
don't. I know you
podcast in
don't.
the world, and I don't do anything based on how many views I think it's going to get. That's a fact.
yeah, and you don't like. There is nothing I say that I don't believe. I might be wrong about some stuff, but everything I say, I believe. I'm not like ever saying anything that's just like, oh, this will, like bring in bigger numbers or something
course.
like that.
They think that way. That's why he's accusing you of that.
Yeah,
Because like
that's right.
that's a motivation for people that are in that industry. If you're in the fucking industry of being a mouthpiece for network news, like there's a very narrow window of behavior that you have to operate under. You have to stay inside these lines, and whatever, if you're on Fox or if you're on CBC, NBC or whatever it is, MSNBC, anyone, whether you have a narrative. They have a narrative in the office. There's a culture. There's a way
100%.
people think about that, and this is your job. So you're going to do the things that you think are going to get you more ratings. You're going to do the stories that are going to get people more outraged. That's how you're thinking. It's
Yeah.
the wrong way to think when you're on the internet.
And
Yeah.
they also have there's a real incentive to never consider like what I said about them being in the baby murder business, because that's that's pretty rough to
Right.
think of yourself as that. And I remember this one time I watched a documentary on abortion, and it was like a very pro-choice. And this was before I had kids. I had so much free time before I had kids.
If I'm going to unwind in front of the TV, that's the last thing I'm going to watch.
I'm a weird guy, Joe. But anyway, that's what I do.
I might, though.
But well, it
the right
I forget
mood.
where it was. Might have been on Netflix
really
or
wanna
something.
know what was going on.
Well, I was kind of interested in the subject. And, before I remember I was watching. It had a very pro-choice bent, and there was this abortionist, this abortion doctor, this lady, and she was like, listen. I've been an abortion doctor for 30 years, and let me just tell you something. There is no moral issue with having an abortion. It's a thing in a petri dish. It's not a human being. But I remember just watching it and being like, well, yeah, but like you better feel that way.
Right.
Because if you even start to entertain the possibility that, what does that make you?
Right.
So there's this very powerful social incentive for them to like dig their heels in and not admit that like, oh, the United States of America, the greatest country in the history of the world with more freedom and prosperity and cultivated the greatest economy and the greatest
76
music
more
and literature
fucking
and
headshots.
everything that is this superpower. Oh, we presided over the bankruptcy, destruction, and like the devolving into nothing more than a like military industrial complex, big bank, big pharmaceutical, most corrupt nation on earth. And we didn't cover that. We watched all of that happen, and not only did we not cover it, we demonized anybody who covered it. And we were at every, like that's very difficult to ever confront. And it's always just so much easier for human beings to just go, nope, the problem is misinformation and Russia and racism.
They were saying that the number one thing for women was abortion. That was the narrative that was being expressed over and over again. It was the number one issue for them, the number one concern.
What was the only political winner they had? No. No, but I want to.
Hold on, give me a second. Oh, man. Kurt is the fucking best when things are flying and everything gets crazy. I'm gonna send this to you.
He is one of the funniest human beings on the planet, for sure.
He's a mess. He's just like,
Oh, I know.
Like, he got me down rabbit hole after rabbit. You didn't hear about this? And he's like, more conspiracies. I'm like, Kurt, I'm trying to like enjoy this experience of being at the comedy club and Donald Trump's about the way you're hitting me with conspiracy after conspiracy after
Yeah,
conspiracy. I'm
you
like,
got. Listen, you get caught on the side of the bar at Mitzi's with Kurt Metzger. You might be in for a night.
And he's looming, and he's big. He's a big, giant guy. Christina Applegate, right? Why? Give me your reasons why my child is
Jesus,
sobbing
what are you
because her
fucking
rights
doing
as a
with your
woman
launcher,
taken
bro?
away. Why? And if you disagree, please unfollow me. Kurt says, good news. If she got all her COVID shots, she's probably sterile now anyway. Also, what the fuck is a woman? Also, could you imagine a child? Imagine a child, and your child is sobbing because their right to kill a baby inside of them might be taken away. I don't believe that's true.
It's very hard.
I don't believe that's true unless you've distorted what we're talking about to that child and said that someone's going to tell that child what they can and can't do with their body, like in some sort of a weird dystopian way. Like, what did you say to that kid? Do you explain what an abortion is? You explain how they came about. They were in your body, and then they came out. Now they're a little tiny person that's like super vulnerable, and you want to protect their right to kill a little tiny person inside of them. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to do it, and I'm not a woman. I should not have the choice of what a woman can and can't do with her body. I would not want a man, if I was a woman, to tell me what the fuck I can do with my body. And I think if somehow, and I think it's all connected to religion, and if somehow or another someone decided, and this would be a very minor comparison and not nearly as consequential, but if someone decided that men could no longer get hysterectomies, or excuse me, vasectomies, if men could no longer get vasectomies because of religious reasons, because of some Sharia law or whatever the fuck it is, you cannot do that. Men would be outraged. If women were forcing it on men, we have low population, you cannot get vasectomies. Like, what? We'd be like, what the fuck is going on? And I want to go to Oklahoma to get a vasectomy because it's legal there. And then they track you. Were you in Oklahoma to get a vasectomy? Like, what? What the fuck? Men would be outraged. That's happening with abortion. There's talk of doing that with abortion, where in states where it's illegal, women are not going to be allowed to travel in the United States of America, where you're supposed to have freedom, to go to a place where you're going to have a legal medical procedure. It's legal in that place, whether you agree with it or not. If you're going to believe in states' rights, and you don't think that this is a giant prison where you have to show your ID when you go into Arizona, you should be able to drive around, right? That's the whole idea of one country. You can go wherever the fuck you want to go. It's not your business. There's other things to worry about. Worry about these fucking gangs that are taking over apartment buildings. Worry about the border. Worry about South Central Los Angeles. Worry about the South Side of Chicago and fucking gang violence that kills more people than half the wars we have going on right now. Worry about important shit. Don't worry about what a guy wants to do to get a vasectomy, or what, way worse, a woman wants to do. She's trying to get an abortion.
Well,
it's
look,
not your fucking business.
I think that if the argument is that abortion is killing a baby, which, like, there is an argument to, then I can understand the argument being, hey, that shouldn't be allowed. Now, obviously, I do think there are situations where it's pretty indefensible to force a woman to carry a baby to term.
Yes.
You know, but
Could risk her life. There's a lot of rape, incest.
also major health issues.
Yes.
I mean, there are these situations where you find out that there is some, congenital disease where this kid is not going to make it to 3 years old. And I would never dream of, like, forcing, that decision on parents rather than allowing them to make it. There is also a different, the vast majority of abortions are not that. And the vast majority of abortions are essentially people just don't want to have kids right now. And that's that's much tougher to defend than those cases. But I will say that one of the things that always, like, I find striking to me is that, because I'm like a radical libertarian, and it's very interesting to me that, like, progressive Democrats all of a sudden become radical libertarians, but only on one issue. And they make literally exactly, I'm not even saying the libertarian position is to be pro-choice. There's libertarians who are pro-life, libertarians who are pro-choice. But the argument they make is a libertarian one. They're like, listen, I own my body. It's my body. It's my choice. The government shouldn't be involved in healthcare decisions. We believe in freedom. This is a basic fundamental right. It's a very libertarian argument.
Yes.
And it's just interesting that you only apply that to this one area. There's not any other area where any progressive Democrat would ever go, you know, if we're talking about Obamacare, or we're talking about regulation, or we're talking about taxes. They would never go, hey, listen, this is my money. This is my body. This is my choice. The government shouldn't be involved in that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And like, there is something that's very bizarre about
Very good
that. Where it's kind of like, maybe with immigration, they kind of try to use that as an argument to like, oh, you shouldn't stop a person's freedom of movement type thing. They don't really do that anymore because it's been such a disaster. But it's just very strange to me that it's like, oh, what, you all become radical libertarians, like
Yeah.
only when it comes to this thing, which is kind of murdering a baby?
But then there's the other side that says we're going to leave it up to the states. Okay. Well, if you get rid of Roe v. Wade and you leave it up to the states, if someone wants to go to another state where it is legal and you want to stop them from doing that or prosecute them when they come back to your state,
That seems to be a problem.
that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because then it's like
You can't prosecute me for gambling in Vegas
right,
because
you
I come
own that
back.
person's
Yeah.
body. What if
Yeah.
that person decides to get an apartment in Oklahoma?
Right.
And now they kind of live there sometimes. What are you
Or
going to
just,
do?
it also, it seems...
Is it where their driver's license is? Like, what is that?
It also just seems, I don't even know what the word, it seems like incoherent or unsustainable to say that if you're not breaking a law in the area where you are, that you could then be held responsible for
Exactly.
that when you come back to it. Because again, like it's, you know, you go
Right.
to a state where recreational marijuana is legal or where gambling's legal or
Right.
whatever. You know, the idea that it's like if there's like the speed limit was 80 miles per hour in the town over, and then I come back and I get a speeding ticket
Right.
for driving too fast over there, where you're allowed to do that. So that seems
Exactly.
unworkable.
It's a great. That's
to
a great
me.
analogy.
Yeah,
that's a great analogy. It's men too. It's men controlling women's bodies. That's the thing of it that freaks people out, and it's a step in the wrong direction. If you got rid of Roe v. Wade, and that's what you did, so now people have to go to a place where it's legal. If you're stuck in a state, you don't have the resources, but you are pregnant, and you want to make a decision for your own body, that's not up to men to decide. If you really believe in states' rights and you really believe the United States is one cohesive community, you should be able to travel to do whatever the fuck you want. You want to get your dick tattooed? You want whatever you want to get. You want to get forehead implants so you look like a unicorn? Whatever the fuck you want to do. If you want to travel to go do that, including if you want to do something that's legal, it's a medical procedure that maybe that I frown upon. But if they decided in that state that it's legal, you should be able to do it there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the reasonable compromise for right now is Roe v. Wade was struck down. It's a states' rights issue. But yes, I agree with you. The tracking of what you do in another state where it is legal in that state, that first of all just seems unworkable to me. I don't see how
Right.
that's possibly going to happen. And then I do feel like that's going to have to go back to the Supreme Court anyway, because it's such a precedent that you could be prosecuted for doing something that was legal in the area that you did it.
It's creepy. It's creepy, and it's an infringement on rights. I don't like it. Even if I don't like, even if I wasn't a pro-choice person, if I didn't like the idea of abortion, I like less the idea of the government telling you what the fuck you can do and whether or not they can discover what you did in some other state. Like, shut up.
Yeah.
You can't do that, and that's what I think a lot of women are fearful of, and a lot of that, I don't know how much of a push there is to make something like that happen. We tried to find that about Texas the other day. There was one case, but we just kept talking. What was that one case, Jamie? There was something in Texas where someone maybe traveled to get an abortion, because in Texas it's 6 weeks, which is kind of crazy. Like, you don't have any time. You barely have enough time to realize you're pregnant for a lot of women.
You're probably not even going to test positive on Joe Biden. Well, he wanted some diversity points, and he also wanted someone to not outshine him, because now he was becoming senile, and he was never that bright to begin with, so he picks Kamala Harris to be his VP. And then Kamala Harris needs to pick someone who won't outshine her. You know what I mean? So it's like the idiocracy just like spun out of control real quick, where all of a sudden you get to like the third VP in a row, and you're like, yo, really? This is who you picked? Like,
He's a knucklehead.
You know what's crazy is that this was, in many ways, this presidential election was just so wild and so different from anything I've ever seen in my lifetime. You know, I'm 41, and this was different than any other presidential election of my lifetime for sure, and I think substantially before that.
Lifetime.
Yeah, I think before that too. But then there were these things that were also just like very conventional explanations for why you look at this Trump blowout. And it's almost like as you look back at it, it's like, yeah, what, you guys thought you could get away with it? It's just very basic things that, like, Donald Trump
Alright.
picked a VP.
I think we're gonna go walk this one out and grab some Qdoba afterwards. It's Qdoba Wednesday, folks. Woo! Do a good start to the day, getting some headshots in. Great game. Certain level of zen can be achieved just by running it down with 9 other fools on Nuketown while listening to a Joe Rogan podcast. Pretty wicked. Suck, fat cock. All right. Peace out, guys.